Welcome to One Man's Tracks, the second-hand music channel. Positive punk rocker Jay Navarro has been a righteous and outspoken voice for longer than I've been alive, and today I'm here to talk about the hardcore ska-punk band that he helped form in Detroit back in 1991 called Jack Kevorkian and the Suicide Machines. With guitarist Dan Lukasinski, they'd play alongside numerous bassists and drummers, releasing singles and demos up until 1994 when they finally solidify a lineup and drop the Jack Kevorkian and from their name. They would add Royce Nunley on bass alongside Derek Grant, their drummer, and they would be the Suicide Machines. Under that shortened moniker, they'd put out a split album with the Rudiments, and then in 1995 they'd sign with HellMouth Records to record their full-length debut. This is that first full serving of the Suicide Machines, released in May of 1996, co-produced by the band, Julian Raymond and Phil Keffel. This is Destruction by Definition. This record is a ska-punk smash, overflowing with energetic bops that just drip with this rowdy feeling of catharsis. Destruction by Definition is a youthful, honest reflection on some of the uncomfortable realities we encounter while growing up. From simple, charged-up exclamations to existential outbursts, the Suicide Machines present this quick blast of fun tracks that just grab hold, lock you in, and run you through its raucous 37-minute ride. It's a bit of a cliched statement, but this is an emotional roller coaster of an album. Not one of those complicated, loopy rides. It's more of those big drop rides. I just love those. Those are my favorites. Maybe because I'm just such a big fan of heights, or I have a desire to want to fly, and skydiving seems just a little bit too much of a commitment, and maybe I'm a little bit scared. I don't know. It'd be pretty cool to try out, but I just love that feeling, that drop, and this album picks it up, and drops it regularly throughout its track list. When I'm short on patience and need a quick boost, these catchy little cuts provide a deadly dose of juiced up jumpin' punk. I seriously cannot get these songs out of my head, and so I'd love to take a few minutes now and talk about them in greater detail. Starting out with one of the most simply feel-good numbers on this track list. It's New Girl. It's a really fun but also terribly childish celebration all about confronting your old girlfriend with your new and improved one. It does really well to convey that misplaced sentiment of redemption, I guess. It's got ska-style verses, a punk chorus, and it's just an easy kickstart to this electrifying project. The next one's called SOS, and the police don't even come close to the urgency that the Suicide Machines present on this first anti-war call to action. I guess there's a little toasted verse that kind of highlights the peaceful roots of the track, but it really just contrasts the forceful and even desperate nature that this one has. The following track, Break the Glass, feels even less direct lyrically, but then it just hits you with a full smashing chorus that turns into a more all-out mosher you'll be singing along with the very first time you listen to it. I'll break the glass, I'll break it down. I believe that No Face is about the tragedy of the whitewashing of individuality and how it's safer to conform rather than to stand out and be true to yourself. It is a recurring theme on this track list, so I'm going to just go out and say that's probably what this one's about, and maybe if it is the case, then its messaging might need to be a little more directionally direct, not so all over the place. It might be a reflection of the confusing state of being told what and what not to like, but that might be giving them too much credit there. Either way, it still keeps the album moving, dynamic, and really all these songs are short enough and contain these sticky little hooky sections that leave you with at least something memorable to carry you on to the next one with. Hey has the heaviest and most atmospheric opening with some added horns filling out this coming-of-age realization. Its phases seem even more out of focus than with No Face, but this track is more engaging than No Face. I don't know, maybe it's their manic presentation of the confusing world that we've been placed in that helps to connect the music with its subject matter, but really I'm stretching here. I'd love to know your thoughts on this track in particular if you got any. We move on to a more straightforward punk track called Our Time, and it's a favorite of mine. Sure, they can't resist throwing in a quick ska-styled verse in there, but again, it just reinforces the bridge and the chorus so much, and it does help connect the listener better with its message of living the life that you want to live. Too much is then the group's overwhelmed blowout when they become totally disenfranchised with the terror-driven media they're presented with, and they give their Rastafarian response to the chaos that they've been presented with. I thought the next song was called Diamonds, but it turns out I was just mishearing the word islands, and I've been singing my favorite chorus on this album incorrectly. It still slaps either way, this revisiting of those overwhelming and unrealistic expectations that people place on others and coming to the realization that all my dreams are just islands in the sky. These fleeting hopes that kind of drift apart and vanish into the air. It's a pretty sad sentiment, but I just really connect with this song a lot. The argument that takes place on The Real You is once again about the difficulty of being honest with yourself and what you choose to share with others, and it hammers it home with its frustrated chorus. As close as the band gets to pop punk here, it's still got some great hardcore outbursts. Then Face Values follows up and reiterates those sentiments once again, but even more clearly. These are both great catchy tunes that are frustrated with the superficiality of people back in the mid-90s, and we all know how that's been going. Oh, please, like and subscribe, I love it so much! Those same themes seem to continue on the track Punk Out, but the messaging seems to be a little mixed here. Are these guys unapologetic or over-apologetic? It's confusing, but it doesn't seem unjustifiably so. Maybe it's a character dealing with some unreliable or meta-ironic sort of gaslighting situation, and they just are not sure if they're in the right or the wrong, whether they should apologize or not. Either way, maybe don't read too deep into this and just rock out, because it rocks. Time for a song about shoes. It's Van's song. They say that's all it is about, just a song about shoes, but even with its tongue-in-cheek presentation, you can tell this one is reiterating the band's anti-classist narrative in a pretty down-to-earth fashion. I think it's also funny that he's not even wearing Vans on the cover of his album, even though he's got a song called Van's Song, and they probably didn't plan this either, but it does reiterate that messaging of brand loyalty is a scam that they're getting to with this song. Insecurities comes next, tying some of this album's themes together and hitting at the source of a lot of this CD's conflicts. It puts up walls of security, it doesn't believe in itself, and it hides its truth buried under imaginary blankets. Then Inside Outside addresses that the only route to not being a sort of transparent and kind of fucked up individual is through self-reflection and being vulnerable enough to ask questions. It's short and to the point, and I think it's a fun coincidence that it came out the same year that my now 25-year-old brother is born, so it just kind of addresses that point in the song that says you're all fucked up and you're turning 25, like, come on, get your life together. And it doesn't apply to him totally. I'm gonna still send him the song because I think it's funny, but I know it's not the most flattering thing to receive because it's a tough lesson to learn and it's a hard thing to come to terms with, and I'm past the 25-year point and I'm still working through a lot of my own bullshit.
Now, not that it's out of place in this track list here, but I feel like they could have opened up the album with the song Zero to maybe give New Girl a little more context, make the celebratory sensation feel more warranted, and probably make Zero more memorable of a song, because at this point you're a little ska-punked out. You're not totally tired of it, but you are ready to send yourself off to the breakup closing track, So Long. Just a quick little goodbye to everyone before you get a nice little bonus Minor Threat cover. They do a funky, rowdy rendition of the track I Don't Want to Hear It to finish off this kind of bewildered, buoyant, and bumpin' ska-punk LP. For sure, it's not the most technical or profound album, but its attitude and energy more than make up for its lack of depth or diversity. Plus, it's spread its similarities across the tracklist in a way that, even after weeks of bouncing to this album, I don't seem to be getting tired of these truthful tracks. This lineup produced another full-length record in 1998 called Battle Hymns before Derek Grant, the drummer, departed from the group. He'd be replaced by Ryan Vanderberg, who would contribute drumming to their eponymous 2000 release, and then Royce Nunley would contribute to his fourth and final Suicide Machine album in 2001, leaving after the release of Steal This Record, which would be the band's final release through Hollywood Records as well. Signing to Side 1 Dummy and adding current bassist Rich Churhart, they'd release their fifth album, A Match and Some Gasoline, and then their sixth album, War Profiteering Is Killing Us All. It would be the last new TSM release for these ska-punk activists for nearly 15 years, them taking a break and most recently coming out in March 2020, just as everything was falling apart again. The band put out Revolution Spring through Fat Records. Sorry. I know, I just kind of ran through their catalog. I did do my due diligence. I listened to all those albums, and there's some fun stuff in there, but what surprised me most is probably the fact that the energy and kind of the attitude of this original project still kind of remains there on their latest Revolution Spring, even though Jay may be the only original remaining member since Dan Lukasinski left in 2006 when they originally split up. Well, he's been replaced by Justin Malik, who carries that Suicide Machine torch onwards. They just got back together doing a little bit of charity work, raising some funds for an old roadie who got arrested for activism, and it just kind of turned into slowly the band reforming and making more Suicide Machines music, and I'm all for it, guys. Keep it up. These guys are quite the charitable bunch, with their very first show since lockdown being in support of the Food Not Class charity. It also marked an impressive 30-year band milestone for the Suicide Machines. Jay and Justin are also in a different band called HellMouth. They formed back in 2008, and they've put out 3 albums in between the release of War Profiteering and Spring Revolution, and so I'm excited to check out that maybe more hardcore direction. I haven't had a chance to do that, and the ex-members of this band have gone off to join all kinds of other bands and have left me a massive list to be looking out for while searching through the secondhand stack some more. What's your favorite TSM release? How did you find out about this band? Did you get a chance to see them live? I'd love for you to share your experiences with me down in the comments. Like the video if you've made it to the end here, and subscribe for a weekly dose of throwback retrospective music nostalgia. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I will see you next Thursday, 7 a.m. PST, baby. Got no time for my got no time for my got no time for myself.